can't rely on the steering. The steering is completely dead. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a 2015 Infiniti Q50. Familiar vehicle for me because I actually rented one from Hertz not too long ago. This is the 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6. They later updated it to a turbocharged V6 or a turbocharged 4-cylinder. And the car is mostly stock, so we have just some cosmetic mods. The taillights, the chrome delete, added a little diffuser over here. But in terms of actual driving dynamics, everything else is stock. Stock wheels, stock tires, stock everything. So, let's see how this bad boy drives. So right off the bat, steering very heavy. Surprisingly heavy, actually. I got out of my Toyota GR86 just now, and that steering is substantially lighter. Normally you expect a sports car to have heavier steering. This is trying to be a sporty luxury sedan, right? Competing with the likes of BMW, the Germans, and similar. But whenever I feel a extra heavy weighted steering that doesn't have much feedback, it feels kind of weird. And also when they have that kind of sticky nature where they kind of just like hold the angle. Yeah, it's just not... First impressions, like steering is so important to me that the steering stands out as being kind of weird on this car. Definitely kind of weird. But this has the tried and true 3.7 liter from Nissan that a lot of us love. It has a pretty linear torque band, fairly high redline around 7,500 RPM. And this car comes only with a 7-speed automatic torque converter slush box. There's no manual option. This is actually the first generation where they brought the steer-by-wire system. So I'm not sure if that came standard on all these cars or if that was an option, but that would explain why the steering feels very numb. Very minimal loading once you're in the corners. Transmission's a little bit slower to respond than I would like in manual mode, but the nice thing is that it at least holds the gear for you. And also the direction is reversed. There's no paddle shifters on this car, but if you want to downshift, you have to pull forward, upshift, push away, which is of course the reverse of what it should be. I really feel the heft on this car. This is, I mean, again, it's a luxury sedan. But the way the steering is, and with the weight, I don't feel as comfortable getting on it. The downshifts are a little bit jerkier than would be ideal. Some people don't like the character of this engine. I think it's a fine engine. I think it sounds decent. It's not the best sounding engine. Oh, traction control. How do I disable that? Traction control is very aggressive. When I stop, I'll see if I can disable it. Now, in terms of suspension tuning, this is again a sports luxury sedan, and this is more on the luxury end of the spectrum than the sporty side, which I prefer. In a car like this, it always feels kind of silly to me when they're overly stiff, overly damped. But there is of course, a sport version, and I'm guessing that would have a stiffer suspension setup. All right, let's see if we can disable traction control. All right, we got traction control off. And yeah, this steering is This would bother me if I owned this car. All right, let's see how this does. There's very little feedback from the chassis, and you really need to rely on the G-forces in your butt to feel what's going on. You can't rely on the steering. The steering is completely dead. Yeah, this is not the most engaging or rewarding car to push. Now the brakes, not really noteworthy if I'm being honest. They're, just pretty standard. They don't really bite that hard at the beginning because, again, this is trying to be more luxurious than sporty. And in terms of actually pushing them, I'm not going to be able to push them on this road. But I would anticipate, given the car's weight and the size of the brakes, these things would fade very, very quickly. It's at least very progressive when it gets to the limit. And from a driving dynamic perspective, it's nothing super special, but it's well-rounded enough that for the average consumer, unless they're a real driving snob, driving enthusiast, they'll probably be happy. Like, this has enough power to be entertaining, at least. This has enough of a sound to not be boring, to not sound like a garbage disposal, which I'm very familiar with my cars. The ride is comfortable enough, it is practical enough, a larger 4-seater, or 5-seater I should say. The thing that really holds it back for me, and the thing that would really get on my nerves, is just the steering. The steering being so numb. I need a little bit more of a direct feel. It's very slow too. Like, the actual ratio is, it takes a lot to actually get some movement out of this car. It's not nearly as precise. Very little feedback. Transmission in manual mode is a little bit sloppy, a little bit slow. The downshifts are rough. Oh man, I want the steering to load up more. I want it to talk to me. I don't know what's happening at the front. In terms of the actual exterior and interior styling, I think the exterior looks quite good. Even though this car is now, 7 years old, I think it's aged quite gracefully. And that curvaceous, more organic design also comes into the interior. I think it doesn't work on the interior as well as it does on the exterior. And the actual, the fit and finish is not economy car, but it also definitely isn't German level. When I had my rental car, it was actually the slightly newer version that had a turbocharged, I believe 3-liter V6, and it had a lot of lag. It made more power, more torque, and with that lag I feel like is entertaining in day-to-day driving, but when you're actually trying to push it, when you're on twisty roads and you're trying to dance with the car and modulate the throttle, that's when it becomes a little bit more sketchy and a little bit less confidence inspiring. But with this, it's very linear, but the actual throttle response is not as immediate as I would like. It's not as precise. I can't quite dial it in as much as I would like in a sports car. But again, this is not a sports car. This is a sporty luxury sedan. This is the Japanese version of something like a BMW 3 Series. Anyways, thanks for watching, my friends. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you live in Las Vegas and you want me to review your car, then please do reach out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you guys in that next one.